Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, another special edition of the Terrible Podcast, Pittsburgh Steelers Training Camp 2022. I am Dave Bryan. It is August the 16th. It is 8:11 p.m. Eastern Time. And on the other end, as usual, is Alex Kozora, fresh off yet another trip out to Saint Vincent College in Latrobe for training camp practices, and we're here to wrap up and talk about what he observed out there today. And hopefully I do the right thing and trim out the water picking portion of the conversation that we had in the pre-production meeting ahead of this podcast here. It was quite enlightening, but with that, that was fun to start things off with. Alex, happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday, coming down to the home stretch here. I will say, pads yesterday, pads today. Mike Tomlin did not have this team in pads, the two practices after their first preseason game last year. And so there is no let up. It has been just, pedal to the floor as Pittsburgh's trying to finish camp out strong.
Well, the way that defense played the other night, they probably needed that for sure. But before we start getting going in this, oh boy, do we have a lot to talk about. But before that, how about a shout out to Len Testa and the fine folks at Touring Plans?
Definitely. Touring Plans, longtime sponsor of our Steelers Depot training camp coverage. Cannot thank Len Testa and Touring Plans enough. You can use their trip planner tool to show you the least crowded park to visit every day when you make your trip and trek to Disney. Customized touring plans for visiting Disney's best rides, honest restaurant reviews, how to save on Disney tickets, the best hotel rooms to ask for, and so much more. So go to touringplans.com if you have a trip to Disney upcoming and tell them Len Testa and Steelers Depot sent you.
Please do, and we appreciate all the support they've given us over the years as well. All right, Alex, pull out your notepad here to make sure we get everything. But quite a few transactions. The Steelers had to get their roster down to 85, and they actually ended up doing that well before practice even started. A couple of IR moves in there, and there was even a move after practice on top of it.
Yeah, Omar Khan. It's all. I always have to remind myself it's not Kevin Colbert doing this. Omar Khan's slightly different. Right before practice began, they made their cut 6 moves actually because they had a waiver claim there. But the players who were waived are Doug Costin, Jake Dixon, Chris Owens, and Cameron Nizellik, the backup punter, Anthony Miller, the receiver, and Carl Joseph, the safety, land on IR. That was expected for both men. Who was the waiver claim here was William Dunkel. I call him Bill Dunkel, a grade A name, former San Diego State offensive lineman.
You're cracking me up. Go ahead. I don't know why.
Big, strong guy. He wore number 68, and he worked in team today. And so those were the initial moves. I know you noted that Javon McKinley, the wide receiver, he was released with an injury settlement. And then one last move coming in after practice. The Steelers claiming center Ryan McCullum off of waivers from the Lions and waiving a corresponding move. Nate Gilliam, who had been with the team through last year, signed a futures contract out of Wake Forest. So McCullum will join the team tomorrow.
All right, we'll talk more about those moves and the fallout of all that more in depth on the Wednesday morning podcast. So don't want to spend too much time there because we've got other housekeeping to do. And that would be the injury report and the health of the team coming out of the Tuesday practice.
Yeah, injury report here. Let's see, not practicing, a bit shorter today. Calvin Austin with that foot injury. He walked down the stairs fine, and so obviously there's an injury there. He probably won't be back tomorrow. I doubt he'll play in this weekend's game, but no boot, no cast, no crutches, so that's all positive. No Montrevious Adams, no Alex Highsmith, no Derek Watt, no Marcus Allen. Derek Watt doing some pretty heavy sprinting on the side. Marcus Allen, Alex Highsmith doing some jogging. So those guys getting closer to returns. Miles Killebrew continues to be limited for reasons that aren't fully clear to me. Returning full today included wide receiver Miles Boykin, Offensive lineman Chaz Green and Benny Snell football returned. He was in pads and worked full in today's practice.
What did you think about Mike? Real quick, what did you think about? Did you read the what Mike Tomlin had to say about Benny Snell after practice?
I did not. I caught some of the comments. Did not catch that. What did he say?
All right, he was excited to get some of these guys back. Ahead of this game, Dotson, yada yada. He was asked about Benny Snell and if he was one of the players he was excited. And I'm paraphrasing here to get a look at this week now that he's back. Tomlin said, no, he wasn't. Benny has been out here largely. We know Benny. He wouldn't fall into that category.
I'm sorry. Can you repeat that? I got distracted there for a second by Twitter.
He said, no, he wasn't. Benny has been out here largely. We know Benny. He wouldn't fall into that category. When asked about, if Benny Snell was one of the guys he was, excited to have back out there and all. I'm not sure what you think. I know my interpretation of that is he knows Benny Snell football,
Right. And people think it's a negative thing because Tomlin said he wasn't excited.
I'm not saying people are taking it either way. I was just asking what your interpret. We'll talk more. I'll give you time. I didn't know that you hadn't seen it yet, but I'll let you listen to it in full context in the Mike Tomlin post game or post practice presser, and then we'll talk about maybe once you get an idea of what the context is.
Okay. I mean, it sounds like what you said. Just they know who Benny Snell is. You're not excited because you already know what he can do, and so it was good to have him back. But he's a pretty known guy at this point. How
did he look out there while we're talking about him?
It was interesting. It felt like Jaylen Warren ran ahead of him for most, if not the entire day. So something to watch going forward. Now, again, there's that known quantity to Benny Snell. You want to give Warren maybe more time with the ones and second string to see what he can do because you have a pretty good feel and understanding for Benny Snell. Snell did not participate in the backs-on-back drill. It was not part of the tackle session, so I think there's still an easing of him, back in the practice, but he looked fine overall.
I want you, while we're talking about running backs, why don't we start there and wrap up the rest of the running backs for Tuesday?
Yeah, I was going to mention just basically Jaylen Warren seeing time with the first team. Obviously, Najee Harris back, and so he was getting work there, but not working in all situations and all sessions. And so Jaylen Warren again continues to get that opportunity. The big note for him, talked about the ball security issues, the fumble in the games, the fumbles in practice. Came down the stairs holding the football. I'm guessing Eddie Faulkner told him that's the old school way of making a guy try to remind him of ball security there. So when he came down the stairs, all through warm-ups, all through some of the beginning session of practice, he's holding that football, multiple points of contact, just as that refresher. The ball security is paramount, and if you do that, you got a chance. And if you don't do that, well, you're not making this roster.
Absolutely. Okay, with running back out of the way, let's go backwards into where we normally start, and that's the quarterback position. And Kenny Pickett continues to get a lot more meaningful reps, does he not?
He does, and I know you asked me yesterday, and I answered, I'll tell you today who I think the number 2 would be in the Jaguars game. And I kept going back to my notes, and I realized there was a day back-to-back, days 5 and 6 of camp, where Pickett was the number 2 for consecutive days. But the way I'm feeling right now, if he made the answer, I'm leaning towards Pickett being the second guy in after Trubisky this Saturday. Don't hold me to that quite yet, but Pickett's run as the second stringer the entire week, and it would not surprise me to see him be the number 2 against Jacksonville.
Now he was the first quarterback in the 2-minute drill at the end, right?
Correct. It was Pickett and then Rudolph.
That sort of sounds like it would be set up for him to be the second one in the game in case he has to run the 2-minute drill to close the first half out against the Jaguars, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, typically they run it, whoever was running ahead of the other, kicks off practice. So Trubisky was first team he ran, first team and 2-minute yesterday. He did not participate today, but the tea leaves seem to me to be indicating that Pickett will be the number 2 for this game. That does not mean that he is going to be the number 2 necessarily, but it may be just giving him that extra look and maybe some more playing time as well.
Right, and this team knows what they have right now in Mason and all like that. I mean, you could understand why they would like to bump Pickett up in the rotation against a different group and just kind of see what he has, see if he can build on what he did Saturday night. Correct.
Yeah, just put guys in different circumstances with different people, different situations, and just see how they respond. You just want to learn as much as you can about these guys, and you have to learn by doing and putting them in different circumstances just to see what their makeup is and how they meet that challenge and just how they tick and things like that. I will say in 2-minute, the defense continues to dominate after going a perfect 2 for 2 yesterday. The defense did versus the offense. The defense again went 2 for 2 offense, did not put the ball in the end zone once. Kenny Pickett 3 of 6 for 39 yards. Mason Rudolph 4 of 8 for 41 yards. No touchdowns, no interceptions either side. So defense dominating the 2-minute session.
How did they look?
How did the defense look?
No, how did all three of the quarterbacks look? Just in general.
Yeah, today I thought they were all fine. Pittsburgh's offense won 7 shots, 5-2. And so that was, a good, pretty convincing win for them. I think all 3 guys, though, had solid days.
Okay. All right. Anything else, Stat? Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say just one thing conceptually in 7 shots. And we saw this a little bit last year in camp, maybe during the season as well. There was the first play, 7 shots, was a empty set 4x1 quad bunch formation. And so you had George Pickens as the backside X receiver. And then you had 4 players out to the left side. That was Najee Harris and a couple of the receivers. And I think Pat Frymuth as well in a diamond bunch formation. And basically what happened was it feels like Trubisky has 2 options there. You can maybe 3 on Pickens, but 2 primary ones of you can throw to Najee Harris on that quad bubble screen, or you can, if it's not there, run it in yourself for a quarterback draw. And Trubisky did the latter today based on box count and whether or not the screen is open or not. So that may be a low red zone type play, is that quad 4x1 look with a quarterback draw option.
And just to clarify, you don't give credit for that in 7 shots.
Correct. I think the defense would have gotten the stop. Some people ask me, well, just judge, if the quarterback would have been tackled, but that can be so tough to do because no one's trying to get too close to the quarterback. In fact, some quarterbacks got hit today, Rudolph and Pickett, and I think Tomlin got pretty mad about that during the 2-minute drill. And so you want to stay away from those guys. But yeah, the offense had 6 touchdowns, but I give it a 5-2 score because I do not count the quarterback draw as a win for the offense.
All right. Anything else to add to wrap up the quarterback position?
Not much overall. Taking care of the football, good exchanges, clean exchanges. So that's all good. So I think good day work there. But the defense again shut things down late.
You think poor Nate Gilliam was jettisoned because he couldn't snap, or what?
That's a good question. I think some of it's just the opportunity of a McCollum probably becoming available. He's more experienced. Gilliam was not a natural center. He was a guard at Wake Forest. Had been playing center in Pittsburgh this offseason. I think Pittsburgh just not happy with their overall offensive line play. There's a lot of churning, a lot of turnover there. And so I think it's just maybe the overall point of we got to find some offensive linemen who may get the job done.
All right, wide receivers today.
Let's see, not a ton to note here. I do want to
What about Pickens versus Minkah that's being talked about?
I was watching the backs on backers then because it was so impromptu. I caught a couple glimpses of Pickens having, it seemed like some good reps against Minkah. Is that a fair assessment of what you were reading? I did.
Yeah, and Mike Tomlin tried to frame it more about ask George how that went. Just put him in a different situation against a higher quality. Obviously, I haven't seen any of the reps, so it's dangerous sometimes to take secondhand info if it doesn't come from you.
Right. I know he had one good snag, but they were doing the backs on backers, and I wanted to see that. And I don't know, the backs on backers wasn't as intense as it usually is, but that was occupying my attention as the receivers and DBs were going one-on-one.
All right, Chase Claypool and Deontay look healthy and all?
Yeah, they look good. I mean, do you think this? We can talk about this more tomorrow, but I'd have to think all 3 of those guys play, or at least Claypool and Deontay will play in the game on Saturday.
I would like to think if indeed it's sort of a tune-up and it's kind of maybe potentially sounding that way. I guess we'll learn more when Tomlin meets the media, but I don't. If they're healthy enough to play, I don't know why you wouldn't at least try to get them out there for as long as you're going to probably keep Mitch in the game.
Right, with a new quarterback, I think you want to get some summer reps before week 1 against the Bengals. So they all look healthy. Tyler Vaughn's had a bit of a tough day. At least 2 very clear and obvious drops. Really, a third one you could argue as well. Did have an 18-yard catch in that 2-minute drill, but Tyler Vaughn's, who had that game-winning touchdown against Seattle, drops had not been an issue for him previously, but were an issue today.
And once again, Claypool primarily running in the slot.
Yes, overall, primarily in the slot, Pickens and Johnson on the outside.
Okay. Anything else before we move on to tight ends?
Well, tight end has very little. It's been pretty quiet for Zach Gentry. Haven't really had a lot of notes. I know he missed a little bit of time and missed the game on Saturday. Beyond that, Connor Haywood had a nice touchdown catch in 7 shots. And then Rader, Sternberger. It's been pretty quiet for Sternberger lately, especially.
Right. It sounds like it's just that top 3 and then the also rans at this point. The question is Rader going to probably be the guy on the practice squad, or will they look maybe outside of the organization?
I think they'll stick Rader, just a known guy, good blocker, very limited upside type of player, but his hands have improved. He can play on the coverage teams. So I think he'll probably stick on the practice squad as the fourth tight end.
All right, offensive line today.
Really good day for Kevin Dotson, I thought. He waned a little bit in O-line D-line at the end. He might have been tired because they gave him a ton of reps in O-line D-line, and he faced the very energetic Khalil, or Davis brothers, Khalil and Carlos Davis. But Kevin Dotson had some really good 1v1 reps against Kim Hayward, even Larry Ogunjobi. And so, again, still rotation, first team left guard between Kendrick Green and Kevin Dotson. But I thought Dotson had a good day, and what I was able to really specifically view, and I think Mike Tomlin even said it's a very important week for Kevin Dotson.
Right. It is indeed. Who do you think is going to start at left guard?
This Saturday, my guess is Dotson, just because who started last? No, Dotson started Dotson missed the game.
No,
so
Dotson missed the game. Yeah.
So my guess will be Dotson, but I don't know for sure. But my guess would be Dotson just because Green cut all the work last weekend.
All right. Any of those other backup guards sticking out at all?
Not really. I was really hopeful that maybe a Chris Owens would, shine, and that obviously did not happen. Leglu's not had the best camp, but I thought, as you said, had a good game against Seattle. It's really going to be the loser of Dotson Green become the backup, guard, and Hassenauer your backup center. He can play guard, but primarily a center type, and Leglu as either the ninth offensive lineman or lands on the practice squad. And
does Joe Haig remain, the single best option as the backup tackle? Yeah, I think so. I mean, you do wonder, will this team, whenever it comes to cut down time, try to find some more offensive linemen? Maybe not even to make the 53, or maybe a ninth offensive lineman, but just to round out that group. It feels like they're fairly dissatisfied with some of the group they have right now, especially with what Tomlin had to say and the moves they're making right now. So right. I'm sure they're going to keep their eye on the waiver wire. It does feel like some of these moves are like just not liking what they're seeing, and obviously too going to have some bodies for that last preseason game, but at least want to have somebody to maybe give you some quality or better quality reps late in games. I mean, I know that Dixon and Chris Owens didn't play in that game, right. So I guess just based off of their practice time. But I think just overall, you just want to see if you can find some different guys and some more experienced guys. I know McCollum has a fair amount of experience, and so there's probably some value in that. How do you feel about this offensive line? Like I said, I think run blocking will be improved. I think pass pro will be an adventure. I think the scoop up overall will be up and down, pretty inconsistent. I think they're trying to learn what Pat Meyer's trying to teach. I think Meyer's a good teacher and a good guy for this young, trying to gel offensive line room. But I think it'll be an adventure, and that's not what you want to have with your offensive line, is an adventure. Okay. Flipping over to the other side of the football, Larry. Is he the dude? He is. I meant to tweet that out. There was the one run session, I think the second team session. He would just like 3 or 4 tackles in that session alone. I mean, he was getting off of blocks, and it wasn't a full tackle session when he got in there, but I mean, he would have, laid the lumber had that been a full contact period. So he's been really, I mean, I know one of the knocks, I know PFF's score on him in his run defense was poor, but his run defense in camp has been excellent. All right, good. And Tyson ramping it up. Feel like he's going to play? Yeah, I think so. He's full. I mean, he has the world's biggest brace on that left leg. He's just had so many injuries, but he looks good. He's played a lot of snaps this week. He's been in full team, so he should be good to go against Jacksonville. Loudermilk and Leal? Yeah, it's been maybe a bit quieter for them. Loudermilk, for being a tall guy, I think his leverage, it can run a little hot and cold, but he gets kind of low for a big guy overall, big tall guy. And then Leal, haven't seen maybe as much lately. But I think overall it's been a good camp and a good summer for DeMarvin Leal. All right. Inside linebacker, the big buzz, and we'll talk more about this on the podcast, Devin Bush and some of the things he said. What's going on with the rotation there and the guys behind him? It's been about the same in terms of the top 3 of Jack, Bush, and Spillane. Pretty healthy rotation there. They're all getting work in dime packages and things like that. But it's really only 5 guys healthy right now. Mm-hmm. It's behind that is Buddy Johnson and Mark Robinson. So those guys have gotten a ton of reps with the UG3 on IR and Marcus Allen remaining out. He should be out probably the rest of the week. And so those guys have really benefited from the reps. Mark Robinson did have a nice tackle for loss on the screenplay. Blew up a screen to Anthony McFarland for a would-be loss of 6. Not a full tackle session. I'm betting Robinson would have made the play had he been allowed to go to the ground. How would you rate Spillane's camp?
Really good. It's a little of that Anthony Chickalo feel of like guys that have really good camps that probably won't fully translate over to in-game action. But Spillane has been really active in run session. He's technical. He finishes well. He fights hard. He recovers when he's speed. Obviously, an average to below average athlete in some of the vertical routes. Guys are able to run away from him. He doesn't have that quickness that you would like to have. But, he's made a lot of plays. It's been all around the football. And so it's that kind of Chickalo feel to me.
And Miles Jack feeling more comfortable by the day, I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, nothing specific to note over the last couple of days, but he's been, I call him Steady Eddie, just really solid day in, day out, and probably the best off-ball linebacker this team has had since Shazier. He's not Shazier, but just the best since him. And Shazier was at practice today, which was nice to see Ryan Shazier.
Tell me about outside linebacker. Make me feel better about the depth.
I wish I could. Jannard Avery getting more chances. He was running first team today with Alex Highsmith out. I think Tuska was getting snaps yesterday, and so they.
Avery's been okay against the run, right? And obviously he's missed quite a few days in here in the groin, but overall throughout camp, Avery's been fine against the run, right?
I would agree with that. You're right. He missed about a week with that groin injury, but I think when I have seen him, he's been solid against the run. He's a squattier body type, a stronger guy, and he sets at the edge pretty well.
Because that wasn't really in the tape last year, from the Eagles. That wasn't my concern. Once again, I wonder about him as a pass rusher. And I know he's had a couple of good reps out there, from my understanding, as a pass rusher. But in game situations, I really am wondering what they're going to be able to get out of him as a pass rusher.
Yeah, I guess remains to be seen on that. Again, some of the limited time he's had due to injuries and the nature of camp and not playing in the game makes it a little tough to tell. But, I mean, Derek Tuska's had a fine camp. I just don't think it's going to translate well on the game day. And I think you want someone that's better against the run and maybe just a bit stronger overall. And I really would prefer Tuska as the number 4.
All right. Let's see. Where are we? Cornerbacks, I guess.
Let's see, cornerbacks, not as much to note. Like I said, I did not watch the 1v1 stuff. I was watching the backs on backers. James Pierre, it's been up and down. I've talked about that before. He's a gambler. He's aggressive. He wants to make plays in the football, and he can, and he has. He's also missed on some chances as well. But I would say that's a guy that's certainly, hot and cold. Either it all goes well or it doesn't. But I think he's going to make this team as one of the top reserve outside cornerbacks.
How about any of the kids?
Yeah, Carlin Spatel is pretty versatile. He's played inside, outside, worked in some dime, and so I think there's value in that. Chris Steele, I know some people have talked up Chris Steele. The guy has some ball skills, but I just don't see it in terms of the tools and, just in coverage, flipping his hips and a little tight hips and things like that. So they may find someone outside the organization to bring in for a practice squad spot because I'm not seeing a lot of great depth in terms of practice squad options.
And due to the illness, we haven't talked a lot about Levi Wallace. So let's spend a minute talking about Levi Wallace.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the early onset of camp, he missed time. He was ill, and he would come back and rotate in. There really hasn't been much rotation at corner. It's been Witherspoon consistently working with the ones, and same with Cam Sutton and Wallace pretty firmly with the twos. In dime packages, you still see Wallace come on with the starters, and I think he will still start in this team's nickel defense, although I've kind of had the thought of, is Arthur Millette going to continue to be the early down nickel corner? And if so, that probably means that it's going to be Sutton and Witherspoon as the two outside corners. So if they're going to play Millette on early downs, Wallace may lose playing time there.
Did you see yesterday that Ugo Amadi got traded to the Eagles? At
right,
first,
Whiteside, yeah.
Right. The report earlier in the day that was that they were going to cut him. He's going to be part of the early cuts. And I guess they circulated that out, leaked that out there to see if they'd get any trade offers. And they did. My ears sort of perked up because we talked a lot about that kid, coming out of, where was it? Oregon there. But that was all for naught there. All right. Safety.
Yeah, I think still seeing Casey there. They've done some of the extra stuff there with Norwood in the slot. And Casey
you did a great job on the film room with him, by the way, too, about talking about no yards after contact when it comes to him. And you pulled really some great footage on that. And that's who he is, isn't it?
Well, that was my thought. I got a lot of pushback from Cowboys fans who said his tackling was poor and he wasn't physical enough. To me, he's always been a physical guy. Now, he's a smaller guy, and he does tend to aim low, and that may cause him to miss. We'll see how that looks in Pittsburgh. But to me, physicality and 1-2 has never been an issue with him. He's a pretty downhill, fiery Mike Hilton type of dude.
And it just wasn't a one-off either with the because I highlighted that tackle on the tight end. But, I mean, there's multiple instances in that film room from that one game.
Yeah, I pulled all 4 of his tackles, and all 4 are pretty aggressive and impactful, and there was no yak. So I know it's preseason, and when you're going against, top receivers, Jamar Chase or whoever in a regular season game, if that happens, it may look different. But from what I've seen so far, based on camp and that game, Casey's physical, he's aggressive, and he's had a nice summer.
Do you know Terrell Edmonds is in camp?
I've known him a little bit more the last couple of days. He had probably the moment, the rep of backs on backers today. He absolutely truck stick Mateo Durant. Poor Mateo Durant, not built well for that drill overall. Edmonds has had some stuff and some good run fills and plays in goal line this week. So, I mean, he is who he is. I'm not trying to say he's made a giant leap. He's basically the same dude he's been since getting drafted. I mean, there's been some improvement in coverage and a ton of reps he's had. He's healthy and available, durable, and worked every single day. And he's just always there. But I've at least mentioned him. He's been around the ball more this week.
What is the single weakest position on this starting defense?
Oh, and so in terms of the starters, not considering depth here.
Right.
That's a good question. I would say inside linebacker. I mean, I think Jack is solid, but what do you have next to him?
Right.
Is going to be an issue. Maybe some questions at corner as well. But if you made me choose, and I would say inside linebacker because you have Jack, and then besides that is more of an unknown.
Had some punting today, did you?
We did. No, boy, do we have punting. I think all it took was them cutting Nizellik, and Presley Harvin felt free. I mean, he was awesome. I've never seen him punt so well in a practice. I mean, it's only been 2 camps, but let me get some of the numbers on that. He had a 4.52 hang time for 72 yards at his own goal line. And so, I mean, just boom, that one. Literally went over Tyler Vaughn said. He was backing up and then turned and then just let it go. Didn't even try to field it. I mean, it was just awesome. He had a couple over 5 seconds, 5:05, 5:1. I had one. I know the hang time was easily 5 plus. I had 5.35 my stopwatch. I think I was a little slow on that, but it was excellent. It's traveled 60 yards. He did have one go out of bounds, but other than that, I mean, he was consistently 4.8 plus, 60 yards plus. I've never seen that guy so good. So happy to see that today.
Did you catch that punt by the punt guy, Matt Araiza?
Yeah, 82 yards, 62 net. Incredible.
I'm so glad that I already knew about him. Obviously, I became addicted to the Midwest Conference football last season and got to see him. So I'm glad to know that I already knew who he was. Yeah, he boomed that. And look, it's good. Presley Harvin, he needs to turn around in 2022, and hopefully he will.
But he seems like the week 1 punter. I mean, he didn't play in the opener. They cut Nizellik, so I guess Harvin's the guy.
All right. Any other special team stuff to talk about?
Trey Norwood starting up back, Jalen Warren, second team up back, Warren and Snell were the starting wings on the punt team. Donovan Steiner, Mateo Durant wings on the second team there. So Jalen Warren getting a lot of special teams time. I know he was on the starting kick coverage unit against Seattle in that game. And so, if Benny Snell were to be pushed off, it would be because Jalen Warren makes it and has special teams value that Snell has been able to bring.
Okay. What else do we have? Anything?
I think that probably about covers it. Be back out there tomorrow for the next to last day of practice.
2 more to go. I can see the light at the end of the tunnel for you. So stay after it here. Hopefully get some nice weather these last couple days. You and I will be back talking on the Wednesday morning Terrible podcast. We've got a lot to talk about in that. So we'll probably get that one started kind of early and all. But let's see. In the meantime, you can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and want to donate to the cause, SteelersDepot.com. Hit the donate button, upper right navigational bar. Also, if you'd like an ad-free version of the site, SteelersDepot.com. Hit the ad-free button and follow the directions that way as well, too. Alex, great job. Hang in there 2 more days. And you and I'll be back in the morning for a regular version of the Terrible Podcast. And tomorrow night will be the next to last special edition of the Terrible Podcast. So in the meantime, as always, thanks for listening to this special edition of the Terrible Podcast, Pittsburgh Steelers Training Camp 2022 with Dave and Alex. Good night.